I've been into the workforce data lately, and there is a very interesting trend that I'm seeing. A lot more people are leaving the white collar jobs and heading into skilled trade. I brought on Denise Chaffin with me today, and we're actually going to unpack that, Boomerang employees, and a ton more. Also, if you ever have seen Denise and me talk, we don't really take ourselves that seriously, so there's a ton of laughing in there as well. So let's get into the episode. Welcome back to the Human Capitalist Podcast. I am your host, Trent Cotton, and today with me, I have got Miss Denise. And if you've been in recruiting, you have probably seen her around, definitely at RecFest and some of the conferences. I know she has snagged me for a couple of interviews for her podcast. So Denise, welcome to you're in the hot seat. You're not the host this time.
I know. Thank you, Trent. I'm Denise Chaffin, and my podcast is called Talking TA. And I also have an agency called Top Source Talent. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I have been in the talent acquisition business since 1988.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you've seen some changes.
A few, yes.
Yeah. Well, I got into it in 2004, and I love whenever I'm talking to, like a group of recruiters, and, you can kind of tell that they're younger. And I said, I've been in recruiting long enough to remember when Google was a new thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes me feel really, it doesn't feel like that long ago, but yeah, there was a time that you actually had to dial for dollars back in the recruiting.
That's what we called it. We called it dialing for dollars.
Yeah, actually, it was so much more fun though. And then whenever Google came with the whole Boolean search, not a lot of recruiters were using it. So I was out there mining all kinds of data, and yeah, those were some of the fun times back whenever recruiting was actually relationship based.
Well, speaking of which, we used to go to conferences. I would work as a contract recruiter for my clients, and then the engineering departments would take me and a couple other people from our staffing department. We called it back then. That was even before
staffing and personnel. Yeah.
Yeah, personnel. And we would go to these industry conferences, and we would pick up business cards, and that's what we would use later to do our recruiting. It was so nice because we had the phone number of the person. This is back before cell phones. So you got their desk phone, but still it was awesome to be able to get a phone number and actually meet people and have them remember you when you called. It was actually a great way of recruiting.
It really was. It like I said, it was relationship based, and it's funny because, I'm sure you do the same thing. You're just kind of scrolling through LinkedIn and you see someone, as an update, and you're like, oh God, I remember hiring them back in such and such and this level role. Look at them now. And so, there's always some pride, I think, that goes into placing the right person in the right role at the right time.
Oh, seriously. Definitely. Yeah. Most definitely.
Well, I love to bring on very smart people onto the podcast and tackle some of the recent topics. So, we just started 2026. And I found two. One of them actually is going to be a great segue into what you and I wanted to talk about. But let's tackle the first one. And this one is from HR Brew. It's a little dated, but I kind of like the topic of it. So it came out in December. And it talks about what's next for AI and HR. And what Adam DeRose is the author, and he actually brought in a couple of different knowledge people in the market and just kind of said, here's some of the different things that are going on. What are you seeing in the topic of AI and HR, kind of starting the new year? Where do you think it's going to go?
I think that people are going to become more conscientious about tools that they're using, purchasing. I think that there's so many out there right now. And one of the things I'm noticing are the ATS companies, especially with, some of the people I've interviewed, are coming out with new products now for ATS, to help, I think, screen out false resumes and applications. That's going to be a big one because I think that's going to be one thing. Yep. That I hear that there's an increase in irrelevant. I hate to use the word fake or whatnot, because I don't know that they're fake. And I don't know that much about the resumes that are being uploaded to company ATSs, but the ATSs are not legit, on one level or another. So I think there's going to be a lot around that. I think there's going to be a lot more about the skills, focusing on skills. I think right now we're still at that. How are we going to do this? How are we going to make that transition to a
Right.
skills-based recruitment industry versus looking at resumes and just qualifications and like what we talked about earlier, like pedigrees,
Yeah. Yeah.
degrees in education, I think will change as well.
Yeah.
And
But Denise, though, come on, you and I have both been in this industry for a while. Do you not just roll your eyes whenever you hear skill based recruiting? Because I mean, I give it a
yeah,
very hard eye roll because, yes, definitely, I was always looking at qualifications, but maybe I was just weird. But I would always get into, does this person have the skills to be
mhm,
successful in the role? You can have 5 years of software development experience and someone that self-taught, through YouTube with 2 years of experience can come in and smoke you. So
right.
years of experience, right? I mean, especially in that. I mean, I just came out of tech. I mean, we saw it all the time. This person's been in there for 15 years, and we had interns that were, graduating and could come in and leverage, new tools like AI and just absolutely put the others under the table. So, I mean, is this whole skill-based thing becoming popular because now we have nothing else to talk about, or is this really a thing?
It's not going to become popular until executive leadership makes it popular.
Mm.
We still need the buy-in, I think, from executive leaders to get to that place where we're looking at skills
Mm.
as qualifications for positions that we need to hire for. I remember many years ago, it was in 2005, in fact. So what, 20 years or 21 years
Don't tell,
ago?
don't do the math. Don't do the math.
Okay.
It makes me feel bad. Don't do the math.
There was a woman that I had interviewed for a configuration management engineer position for one
Oh,
of my
you
clients.
remember what it was 20 years later.
I
Wow.
do. Don't ask me where my car keys are, but I can remember that.
I'm the same way. I hide
Yeah.
my own Easter eggs sometimes, but I can remember like crazy stuff, right?
But anyway, so I recruited this woman for this position and she didn't have her degree yet. She was still working on it. She was a year away from getting her degree. And the company was just dead set. She needed to have a degree, or the person they hired needed to have a degree. And so we kept interviewing people. Fast forward a year later, we still did not have someone hired for that position. By that time, the woman that I had interviewed initially for the role had her degree. We hired her. Now, what was lost over that course of that year was a lot,
Oh, totally.
because yeah, yeah.
Totally.
And that's just one example, one small, tiny little example of leadership coming in and saying, dictating, we have to have this and we have to follow this. There has to be flexibility,
Mhm.
period.
Or
When
common
we're
sense.
hiring,
Common sense. I
common
mean,
sense, and
if
common sense.
someone,
Yeah,
yeah, if someone's three-fourths of the way there, they're committed.
they're
Like,
committed.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's so many different things you could have done in that as a leader. Say, okay, look, we're going to pay 80,000 for a degree. When you get your degree, we will take you from 70,000, which is what we're going to bring you in at, and we'll move you to 80 once you complete your degree. Blah blah blah. Like there's a
yeah,
happy medium, but
there is.
it was so binary for so long. So I am
Yep.
kind of glad that they're fudging them. You actually brought up something that was really interesting. I want to pull this quote from Matt Martin, who's the CEO and co-founder of Clockwise. He said that HR will increasingly own workplace efficiency and productivity as AI tools yield more impact on employee output in the new year. And he says we're already seeing bleeding edge organizations, so like those that are kind of future proof, adopt this pattern within the workplace productivity groups that operate within HR. So he's saying, and I wrote a piece not too long ago about the new title that people are talking about HR is the chief productivity officer, which that's what the companies, I mean, organizations, everyone that I've ever worked for in an HR capacity, it was how do I make the workforce more productive, more efficient? How do I get a better ROI on it? And I think we're finally starting to see HR come around because AI is able to get us out of the weeds.
It's true. True. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. There was a man that I interviewed this week on my podcast who is a customer experience leader. And during my call with him, I realized, oh my gosh, he would actually be a great candidate experience leader, because we were
Mhm.
drawing so many parallels between what he has done as a customer experience leader and what we need on the HR side for candidate experience. And
Absolutely.
I told him, I said, you would make a great candidate experience leader. And
Hmm.
it's funny because after the podcast, we kind of talked again about some of the areas that he could look at because he's looking for some work right now. And some of the areas that he could look at and some of the companies he could contact and draw those parallels with those people so that he can talk to them about it. We
Mm.
need to be more open-minded that way, but we
There's
need everybody. And again, it just bears repeating, it's worth repeating. We need everybody on board. We can't just get to the certain level and then all of a sudden get shut down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the whole transferable skill thing, I would not have gotten my start in recruiting had Maggie Loriano not looked and said, okay, you've been a banker for 6 or 7 years, you know the space, you know the business, you're used to developing, nurturing, and executing on a pipeline. Those are all transferable skills in recruiting, and she gave me a shot. So love that. So let's
For
switch
me, it was
topics.
sales. I was in
Oh,
sales for the
to-
newspaper.
recruiting is nothing but
Yeah.
sales. It's
Yeah.
relationship. Well, it should be relationship based. It's gotten a little transactional for my blood, but
I
all
think
right.
it'll go back though. I don't think that we're gonna stay transactional. I think that
I hope not.
transactional was a period between when the internet started, getting job boards up, having a lot, LinkedIn and using those tools on a regular basis
Mhm.
put us in a transactional role, don't you think? And
Well,
now I think we're
that's
moving
some good
away from that
insight.
a bit.
Yeah, I think we got lazy. Let me just. It used to drive me crazy. I would check on a particular role or whatever, and usually whenever I got drug into something recruiting related, it was like a dumpster fire, and so I'd ask the recruiter, how many candidates have you made contact with? Well, I sent out 72 emails. Okay, that wasn't my question. Contact with, meaning you have reached out to them, you have disqualified them. None. Okay. All right, let's go back to the basics. Send them an email. 3 days later, pick up the
The
phone.
50-pound phone, I always called it. Yeah, pick up that
Yeah.
50-pound phone.
No, I called it the 50K phone because every time I could get someone on the phone, that was money,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
revenue that was bringing
True,
into the organization. So
true.
I hope we get back to
Mhm.
that. So you ready to switch gears? Let's talk about workforce. All
Workforce.
right. So this one came from Newsweek. It said white collar workers want to switch to the trades. So
Mm.
it kind of gets in and starts talking about with this instability that's coming as a result of AI, it's really affecting the knowledge worker space. We're seeing kind of that middle management layer being exposed. A lot of some of your back office types of roles that are still white collar, those are easily automated. So as a result, portions of the white collar workforce are actually looking and saying, okay, let's get into the trade. Are you
Right.
seeing this?
Yes. In fact, I just had a conversation, last weekend. I was at a birthday party, and it was, this big family, had this birthday party for their sister who was turning 75, and there were 2 kids there. Oh, I shouldn't say that. There were 2 young adults there. Oh,
Or they're
bad
kids to
habits,
us.
bad
They're
habits.
kids to us, so
Yeah. There were 2 young people there who had just graduated from college.
mm,
And they're a couple, and so she's going off. She just got, accepted into the fire department here in Phoenix, Arizona. She wants to be a
okay.
fire chief,
Hey,
and I thought that was awesome,
yeah,
to hear that she's going into civil service, and then her boyfriend said that he actually wants to become a machinist, and
mm,
he said, "Because I see a need for machine operators, CNC operators, that type of thing." He goes, "And so I wanna start a business doing that."
interesting.
And I thought, "Wow," and I said, "Really?" I said, "What inspired you?" He said, "Well, my dad owns his own business, and
Hmm,
it's kind of along those same lines." He goes, "And so I wanted to kinda do the same thing, but focus on machining." And I said, "Well, that is amazing." And he said, "Well, not only that, but you can do it for so many different industries." He said, "I
totally.
don't wanna be limited by industry."
So
And
smart.
well, yeah, I mean, this guy is 22 years old, and I thought, "This is just really amazing to hear somebody so young talking like that,"
Yeah.
and yeah,
And
definitely.
it's funny, I pulled a quote for you, because this actually goes really well into the topic that you and I really want to double click down on so we can go ahead and get into it. But I was, getting ready for our session, and I found this quote from George Hinton, who is actually he's often called the godfather of AI, and he recently made headlines because he was asked, if you're in the workforce and all this stuff's going on with AI, like what advice would you give? And he said, and I quote, "Train to be a plumber." So godfather of AI is, kind of giving a signal of, you probably need to get something that's a little bit more skill trade oriented. And it's funny. I grew up with someone, and I went the college route, and he went the skill trades route, and he has got certifications. I think he's a certified welder. Um, you know, Unbelievable certifications that the company paid for, and I came out of college making X. He came out of college making X minus 20, but he didn't have student loans. He didn't have all of this debt,
Oh,
he
please.
right? And he had already been working for 3, because it took him about a year to get the initial certifications. And whenever I was graduating, he was getting, like, his 3rd that was gonna make him a master or something or other. I didn't do a lot in skill trade, obviously, but, um, within 3 years, he went from making $20,000 less to $40,000 more. And again, without the student loan debt, he's building up his experience. And I really hate him now because, both of us are the same age, and he's going to retire in 4 years, and I'm just going to work until I die. You
Yeah,
know,
the life of a recruiter. Yeah, no
of a
kidding, right?
recruiter, yeah. The poor choices in life, but my brain just doesn't work that way. Like,
Yeah,
he can look at machinery and he can look at all this stuff and just understand how it works. Give me a complex math problem, give me
yeah,
market data. You need some statistical stuff. I'm your guy.
that's
Open
right.
up a car hood, my brain shuts down. It's like, I don't know what to do with this. You know.
Well, and it's interesting you say that. My oldest son had bypassed college.
Mm.
He started and he hated it. And he now runs a company out in Scottsdale, Arizona that installs 3M, this 3M plastic product. They call it Clear Bra
Yeah.
on high-end cars. In fact, my whole car is wrapped in it because of his mother.
Of
But
course.
yeah, well, I have no dents in my car though, so I'm putting a
Oh,
plug in for RPM in Scottsdale, Arizona. But here's the thing though,
sponsor of the show, RPM.
yeah, but here's the thing, he went up to Minnesota and was trained by 3M to install this product and went through the whole training, certification, the whole bit, and he's been running this company now for I don't know how many years, it's 10, 11 years now, and he
Mm.
does really well with it. Not everybody is meant to, h be pigeonholed into one type of
No,
career or whatnot,
no.
and, when I started out, when I left high school, I started college, but I didn't finish my degree until I was 49 years old.
Oh, really?
I got a degree in Spanish from Arizona State University at 49 because at the time, degrees were required actually for
Mm.
recruiters, and this was in
Yeah.
2006 when I finished. So I
Mm.
started back in 2002 going part-time. But, prior to that, I ran a swimming pool service company, and I also ran a pest control business. So
2
yeah, well, not yeah,
overachiever.
back to back. But the thing is, I mean, I wanted to be self-employed, and a lot of
Mhm.
people do. So
Yeah.
you have to start somewhere,
Mhm.
if you are gonna go into trades. Yeah, follow your dreams, though. I mean, follow your dreams, and they're gonna happen.
Mhm.
Not everybody has to go to college, and I think it's something that we really kind of got into this framework, that the only way we're gonna be successful is if we had a four-year degree, and I think four-year degrees are great. I think a four-year degree basically tells people that we have the self-discipline to sit through 4 years of school, right?
Yeah.
And we do, and that's great. However, I think that the skills and the trades like you're talking about are gonna become so important. Right now, we have a client, in fact, a new client that we're gonna start work for in 2026, and they are a construction company, but they're
Mhm.
building fabs for the semiconductor industry, which is an industry that we've been supporting for a long time. But instead of supporting the chip manufacturing side of it, now we're going to transition over to the construction side of it, where we're gonna need HVAC people, you're gonna
Mhm.
need electricians, you're gonna need people with a plumbing experience like you're talking about. There are gonna be so many skills that the water skills that they need to have. I mean,
Right.
ultra clean water and all these other things. But all of those are skills and trades that are unrelated, to like tech, if you
Right.
would. But they're
Yeah.
still supporting the tech industry. So I mean, it's not like it's one size fits all on anything.
Mm-mm.
I mean, hey, it's open season.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point of the variety in skills is a lot more than, you study to be an analyst. Yeah, I mean, there's different flavors of analyst, but you want to be a banking analyst. Okay, so do you want to do this or that? But in skills, like the example you gave of the young man you met earlier, I could be a machinist across industries because
Oh,
it's one skill that supports all of it.
exactly.
That's to me, that's kind of that ultimate job security. And as you were talking, I was thinking, okay, well, if we had to give skilled jobs a theme song, I think it would be Justin Timberlake's "I'm Bringing Sexy Back," because, for the
I
longest time,
love it.
right?
I
Because for the
love it.
longest time, it was sexy to have the diploma, from a four-year institution. I think now it's sexy. Well, one, it's gonna be sexy just to have a job, but
Yeah,
now it's like, you know, I mean,
I love it.
I don't know if you've listened to, I love listening to Diary of a CEO, and he's been on this kind of topic of bringing some of these AI ethicists, I think I said that right, ethics people, and really smart AI people talking about what's going to be the real effect, and it's somewhat dystopian. So I was really, really into it, and I listened to it where I'm in the gym, and I think it was like 2 nights ago. I said, okay, I got to switch to something because
Yeah.
I'm getting freaked out. But
Yeah, right.
yeah, so I
Yeah,
mean,
people gotta get in the weeds with it, I think
yeah.
I think we need to take it one day at a time,
Mhm.
one tool at a time, one conversation at a time. But again, I go back to we just all need to be on board with the
Mhm.
idea that we have to make these transitions out. It's just time. It's just time to make
It
some
is.
changes. We made them before. This is not the first time that we're in this situation. We were in this
Uh,
situation back
yeah,
in the mid 90s when the internet started,
it was,
and here we
but
survived. Here we are.
yeah, but think about it though, Denise. I mean, that's always been the thing. Okay, industrial revolution.
Yeah.
You needed 50 people to run a farm.
The
Now you
digital
could do
realm.
it with 10 because they had machines. Where did those people go? They went into the industries. The
Yep.
factories. It made sense. They were
Yep.
good with working with their hands. They
Right.
understood that kind of work. They weren't afraid of work.
Right.
And then you move into kind of the knowledge worker thing. Well, okay,
Right.
cool. I can kind of train. What we're facing now is that we're actually, if this runs the road that kind of this dystopian view, um, we are creating technology that can ultimately replace us at a pace that we can't train and skill up for that next new job because it's going to move like up, over, and around. So yeah, we're not gonna chase that rabbit because then my anxiety will get up. Like,
I love
yeah.
it. Yeah.
My retirement plan was to work until I died and just leave a bunch of money to, my husband and my daughter. And now I'm like, okay, well, that kind of screws that plan. If I can't work, what am I going to do? But let's talk just real quick. How is, you know, going after skilled labor, like the talent attraction piece is different than it is for knowledge workers? Because I did spend some time in a recruiting space that was skilled labor, and I was like, okay, wow, this is very different than banking or tech or healthcare. Like, what are some of the things that you have seen recruiting for them?
Okay. Good question. I think that, using job boards is not gonna happen anymore. Yeah, Craig Fisher wrote a book called Hiring Humans, and I
Yep.
had talked about it before, and I think that he did such a great job with that book. One of the things he brought up in the book was a menu that, was created by a company who was looking to hire for a particular area and was in the Midwest, and on the menu, they told this restaurant that all these people went to, that they
Mhm.
were trying to hire. They said, "Hey, can we buy you guys a new menu and put a QR code on that menu for our company?" And they said, "Sure." So they did, and they started hiring people because people were using the QR code from the menu when they were at
Funny.
lunch.
I love it.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, these are we used to run ads in the newspaper. We used to use billboards, and I think
We
we're
used
gonna
to have fish bowls where people would check out, say, just drop your card for a prize, and we turn around and call them, go, the prize is, do you want a job?
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right. So I think that we'll see some of these types of, recruiting methods come back a little bit. There
Hmm.
also is, a company called El Toro that does what they call IP targeting,
Okay.
and I don't know, I'm gonna give them a plug because, I mean, companies like, Holland America Princess, cruise lines uses
No.
it. Jim, D'Amico, He's the one who introduced me to it, and now
Oh,
he's
cool.
running Caliber Collision,
Mm,
out of for not running Caliber Collision, but running their HR and TA,
mhm.
out of, Texas, and they're the ones that introduced me to it, where you can use IP targeting now to reach out to these people, and I think that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Um, the other piece of it is going to we talked about it before. We need to go to where those people are, just like
yeah,
Craig Fisher pointed out in his book. You have to go to where they are. And if you need to buy a menu for a restaurant because all the people that you wanna hire are coming to that restaurant for lunch and they're working for your
it's
competitor,
brilliant.
yeah, then,
It's
hey,
so simple,
yeah.
it's so simple, but it's so brilliant.
It is so brilliant. So we need to change the way that we think about recruiting.
Mm,
We've been locked into technology. We've been locked into digital formats, for
yeah,
recruiting. And recruiting, you could be sitting next to somebody on a plane and recruit them for something, or they can recruit you. Having a conversation with another person can lead to recruiting. It doesn't matter where it is.
it is, so funny story, back in it was before COVID. My daughter went to private school and I was working full time as a director, but I needed extra income. And two, I had just moved to Atlanta. So I started doing Uber driving. I had a blast
I
with it.
love that. That's
Um,
great.
and we were, in my day job, we were actually recruiting. We were trying to recruit recent graduates to go into our data program because we needed them in fraud. We needed them in commercial and private wealth was actually building something out where they were leveraging data to be able to do some forecasting and targeted customer penetration marketing campaigns. And so here in Atlanta, we've got Georgia Tech, we've got University of Georgia,
Oh,
we've got
yeah.
Emory. Well, I pick up these four students from Emory, and and I would always talk, people in the car and I said, so where are you all going? And, we're going to go to this restaurant. It's like, oh, cool. You celebrating something? Yeah, we just took our final thesis for our degree at Emory. I said, what are you getting? Master's in mathematics with a minor in something, something, something. And I was like, what do you want to do with that? And they're like, well, three of the four did not have jobs. Three of the four, 60 days later, started with the bank. I recruited them while driving them. I said, I do this part time. I do it because I'm trying to learn the city. I like to meet new people. And, my day job is this. And I don't think they believed me until they connected with me on LinkedIn and they're all like, oh, he's legit. But, I remember the COO going, where did you find these three? They're phenomenal. I was like,
See?
where I found them doesn't really matter. I didn't want anybody to know I was driving Uber. Nothing to knock against it. It was just like, you're a director. Why are you driving Uber? But yeah, I mean, I really think that there's so much noise in the technology space that if you really want to get after the talent, you need to follow, Craig's advice. And Craig Fisher, I will be sending you an invoice for this podcast because you've gotten a couple of shout outs. I love me
Yeah,
some Craig. He actually, I think he was before me at one of the conferences speaking. So he's a great guy.
he is.
So we're about to come up on our time, but there is another little secret sauce that you have that I want the audience to hear, and it's about boomerang recruiting. Tell us what you're talking about there.
Boomerang recruiting, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So, we were working for a company called Form Factor
Okay.
a few years ago, and, they were looking for a ceramics engineer. Oh, I mean, we tried, we worked on it for, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks and just running into all sorts of obstacles. So we talked about bringing back, a former employee that we had come across during our search, and they said, "Yeah, sure, if you could get him back." And so we contacted the guy, because, we run into this often, where we want to, initiate bringing back an employee if the company says, "Yeah, they're rehirable," and also if the candidate is interested
Mhm.
in talking to the company again. And he was, because the reason he had left was because of a leadership issue he had run into. And so he had left, and then now he was willing to come back because that leadership issue was no longer
Hmm.
an issue. Anyway, so we brought him back and he did really well. And then they asked us to do the same thing, to go after somebody else.
Interesting.
And yeah, for a similar position. So we thought, okay, this works pretty good. And then we had another client, Medtronic, medical device, said the
Mhm.
same thing. Can you go and find us some people who have left the company who, would be high potentials for us? So we did, and we found some of them, and they came back. Same thing with Lamb Research. They wanted to bring back female talent, tech talent, female tech talent. So that was our mission, was to find female tech talent that had left the company to bring them back.
But,
So
hang on, pause on that because I think that is a fantastic use of agency, within the corporate world because
yep, it
there's
is.
always this antagonistic type of relationship between agencies and most corporate
Right.
recruiters. For me, there was a lot of times, I mean, you and I have talked about it. I would engage an agency because they were maybe niche, and by the time I was able to break into that niche, this agency could already have, 5 or 10 candidates ready to rock and roll. It doesn't make sense. I'd rather take that energy rather than getting into a niche that maybe I only do 1 or 2 times and reinvest it somewhere where, there was a quicker ROI, at least for me or for the
Yep.
team. I think, kudos to that organization to saying, "Hey, we have this issue here," and then tagging you and saying, "Go after." That is a brilliant use of agency partnership.
It really is. And the thing is when you talk to the candidates about why they left, one of the things that happens too, there's other benefits. One, you get to find out why they left. They'll be more transparent about it than
Right.
they were when they
The real
left.
tea.
The real news. The other piece of it is, what did they learn while they were out that they can bring back and apply to the new role that they're being hired for?
Ooh, that's nice.
Yep. And that has been coming up more as well.
Well,
So,
just I mean, the amount of intel that you'll be able to get,
oh,
um
huge, huge.
oh, wow.
Yep.
And, I think it's funny because I think you and I are similar in this. People always ask, what drove me about recruiting because, part of what I did was market intel.
Mm.
And I remember one of the COOs that I supported, he goes, "You always know what's going on in the market. Like, how do you do this?" I said, "I'm nosy."
Yeah.
Like, I love knowing all the got there was a period of time, Denise, in Texas, in all the major metro markets, we were doing some major expansion. I knew all the dirt of who was sleeping with who at what bank, who oh, I was in it. People were watching, like, Real Housewives of, Georgia or whatever. I never got into that, but I was into the real bankers of Texas. I mean, there was some legitimately crazy stuff going on, but, I had that relationship with, the candidates, and a lot of them, they weren't interested in making an immediate move, but we had that relationship to where I could hear some kind of rumblings and pick up the phone and go, "Hey, Scott, I'm hearing this about Bank of America. Are you hearing the same thing?" All
Yeah.
right. All right. Cool. Okay. I need to get that piece. Let me go and find something out and I'll come back to you. And so I think that's another part that's missing in recruiting when you get so transactional, like you're able to
Competitive
provide,
intelligence.
yeah, all that intelligence. Also too, being able to really kind of position that boomerang candidate of going, they know your institution, they left because of leadership, but look at everything that they're going to bring back to that is gold.
Yep. Definitely.
I love it.
Definitely.
I love it.
It's funny you were talking earlier about uh now I wanna say, what is that? Okay. You'll be able to edit this out, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah,
But
why edit it? Both of us already said that we can remember stuff from 20 years ago, but we can't remember where we put our keys. This
well,
is
there was
on this
you
is
were
on brand, Denise.
no, you were talking about something that happened earlier. Anyway, there was a time where you were talking about when you had to do the Uber driving.
Mhm.
Anyway, there was a time in between 92 and 93, I think it was, where work was slow. And I think it
Mhm.
was like right around after Desert Storm. I can't remember what was going on back then. It was so long ago,
Was it the
but work
dot
had
com?
slowed down. Huh?
No, no, dot com was,
That was later.
early 2000s, right.
But anyway, so I started a pastry route. I was working, teaching a class for the Small Business Development Center. And this guy goes, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "I need to pick up some extra work." And so he talked me into starting a pastry route, which I did. And it took off. I couldn't even get over how this thing took off. Anyway, one of our clients for this pastry route was an engineering company. And so when the recruiting business picked back up again, I wound up getting a contract with Motorola here in
Too funny.
Phoenix. Well, what happened was we had this big career fair at Motorola one time. We were doing a bunch of hiring. And this guy walks in and he goes, "Oh my God, it's the bagel girl for the pastry route." And it was so funny. I said, "Oh yeah." he said, what's the deal?" I said, "Well, I've always been in recruiting." I said, "I
Yeah.
just worked with Sloan. I needed extra money, and so I started this pastry route,
Too
which I
funny.
wound up selling to my gardener's wife because I hired her to help me with it." I mean, it was just crazy. But like you're saying though, you never know who you're going to run into. You never know who you're going to meet. Well,
Mhm.
this particular guy too, he was hired, and because we had such a great relationship, he brought in other people from that engineering outfit. You never know who you're gonna run into
That's
because that
crazy.
engineering outfit wasn't doing well. I think they were being acquired, if memory serves me correctly. Anyway, so there were a number of people that we wound up hiring from that engineering outfit,
I love
all
it.
because this guy recognized me as the bagel girl who had sold them bagels while I had my pastry.
But it's the connection.
It was the connection.
It's that relationship that I know you, and it's, you're bringing up, the '90s or whatever, that '90s and early 2000s, Marty Cohen, I think, it
Uh,
was a big sales thing, and it was, do they know you? Do they like you? Do they trust you?
yep.
And
Oh, trust.
that is a perfect example. They knew you, they liked you, and they trusted you, so it makes that sell a lot easier. So,
And also taking that trust piece of it and adding it to the boomerang effect.
mm,
So if you have, an opportunity to go back and reengage with, alumni, uh, even people who've retired who may wanna work part-time,
yeah,
okay?
or even
Because
consult.
Oh, yeah, or
Yeah.
consult. Okay,
Mhm.
now that is a great population of people, because they are, again, trustworthy. They're people who
They
are
have incredible work ethic.
Oh, it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And not only that, but they know the culture of your company. They
Mhm.
also know the position, but there is this trust factor there,
Yeah.
that you have between the company and these former employees or alumni or whatever you want to call them. So you can basically bridge some gaps, just bringing back
Mhm.
people that you've already worked with in the past.
It's funny, I've talked about this man several times on, the podcast, but he was a boomerang before it was sexy. This was back in '97, I think. Um, he had retired from 2 different banks. His name was Mr. Hosea Butler, but Mr. Joe is what everybody called him. I learned more from that man in a year that has transcended time. Like, I
Wow.
still hear his voice in the back of my head sometimes. So I was really, really excited. I was young. I was in my 20s. I had just gotten promoted. I was a private banker, and part of the job they were testing at the time was to bring in new businesses, because a lot of the private banking, they were business owners, entrepreneurs, that level of stuff. So I was so excited because I heard about this new internet company. Again, telling my age, it was kind of new. And, so I wanted Mr. Butler to go on the call with me, and so I go on the call, we go and we meet. I had my little presentation, I thought I killed it, and every time that we would go on some type of a client meeting, we would always get back in his car. He drove a blue Cadillac. I can still smell it because he smoked like a chimney in it.
Ooh.
Um, and so it was July because it was hot. This was Mobile, Alabama, so, like,
Oh.
it's 100 degrees, but it feels like 150 with the humidity. We get in the car, full suits now, and I go,
Oh.
"Mr. Butler, how do you think it went?" And he turned around, didn't turn the car on, turned around and he looked at me. He said, 45 minutes, you gave them every damn reason why they shouldn't bank with a competitor, but not one blankety blank reason why they should bank with you. He goes, never give your competitor more airtime than the company that you work for.
Oh my god, I
And it
love that.
has stuck with me. Like, whenever I would recruit, I wouldn't go, "Oh, you're with Bank of America," or "You're with ABC. They're awful. They're this." I'm like, "You know what? They do really, really great in this area, in this area, in this area, and that's actually why I wanna talk to you." But those retired alumni, that is platinum that you need to start mining. So, well,
What's the name
Denise,
of that movie that Dennis Quaid played in, where he was a sales guy and he had hired his son-in-law, I think, or something like that? Or
can't
somebody
remember.
hired his son-in-law to come in and take over for him so he could retire, but then
I don't
he
remember.
wound up actually teaching that guy more because he was, had been with the company longer.
Mhm.
It's a good story about boomeranging as well.
Have to go and check that out. If I find it, I'll put it in the show notes. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's really good. It talks about it. But I think that the boomerang, I mean, I think it's interesting we're calling it boomerang. I don't know what we called it before, just,
it was always
hiring
called
trust.
alumni. I always refer to it as alumni, which I thought was kinda weird because it's like college alumni, and I don't really
Yeah,
participate like college alumni, so
yeah.
but
Well, and there's
anyway,
groups on LinkedIn. There's alumni
totally.
groups, on
Mhm.
LinkedIn that you can join. And what's really great about those alumni groups, and I think that people, if you are going to use, the platform still, you don't have to stick to the old ways of recruiting. You can actually join the alumni groups or
Mhm.
ask to join, or
Yeah.
actually just go on them and see who's there,
Yeah.
if you want to. Yeah.
That's a
If
great way, great little nugget. So, well, thank you so much. Always enjoy,
I do
chit-chatting with you.
too. I
It's
do
always
too.
fun. Always fun. So where can people find and connect with you if they wanna know more?
I am my website is, topsourcetalentllc.com for my website. You can find me on LinkedIn, Denise Chaffin. Those are probably the 2 easiest ways to find me.
And then your podcast.
My podcast is Talking TA, and the, podcast library is talkingta.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. And I will put a link to all of those in the description below. Thank you again for joining, and I am sure that we will cross paths this year on the road.
I'm sure we will. A
All
happy New
right.
Year.
You too.
All
Take
right, thanks.
care.